everyone, my name is Lindsay. Welcome to Love Them Well. Today I want to show you how to crochet a very simple Afghan during these winter months. When you're on your couch in the evening and watching a show with your family, you can cuddle up with an Afghan that you are making, and it is so simple to make. So I'm going to show you how to do that. For this very simple Afghan, I am using an eye hook. If you go get one from the store, you can get the Boy brand of 5.5 millimeters, a size 9. These are the yarns that I've selected to make my son his camel blanket. I'm going to start with the gray yarn, and you will tie this on here. I do a very loose double knot. And then you're ready to begin your first row. I will be showing you today how to do a double crochet. To begin, we need to make a chain, and I like to make my blankets from 100 to 150 chains. So you'll just start counting. 1, 2, 3. And if this is new to you, here is how I like to hold my yarn. Right in between here, I've got my thumb right here. And I do a lot of control with my thumb like this to keep it still so that it's not wrapping around while you're trying to wrap this around. So I hold it still, I wrap around the back, and then I take this here and I pull it over. I'll show you up close. Take it around, pull it over, around, pull it over. So you will do this as many times as you would like to make a blanket. For baby Afghans, I wind up doing about 80 across. But really, if you wanted it to be just a really tiny little Afghan for a car seat, it could be about 50. Again, if you're new to this, keep this really loose. It's very tempting to go real tight when you're making these first chains, but that's gonna make it very difficult when you're going back in to the loops. So keep it real loose as you can. Okay, I am not going to go all the way across with the 150, but you will continue doing this until you get that many chains, or roughly around there. And then to make your second row, which is just slightly different than making all of the rest of them, this is what you're going to do. You're going to wrap around, hold it still with your thumb here, and you're going to count over 2, because when you count over 2 and go into this loop here, you have suddenly made your edge there. You need to make that edge, that's very important. So this will be the edge of the Afghan. So I'll show you once again. I have wrapped around. I'm counting over 1, 2, skipping those 2. And then I'm going in this loop right here. Now, once you have done that, you're going to take this part of the yarn here and just lay it over this. You'll pull over once, wrap around, pull over twice, wrap around, pull over 2 more. That is called a double stitch. I'm going to wrap around again to start my new one, and I look for the next loop, which is right here. I'm laying this part over, going over 1, going around, pulling over 2, going around, pulling over another 2. Then I go again, wrap around to start my next stitch, look for the next loop, it's right here. And this yarn just naturally lays over. So I lay it over like that, and I'm pulling some tension with these 2 fingers. Pull over, go around, pull over 2, go around, pull over 2. Sometimes it's difficult to see when you're first starting off which is your next loop to go through. So it helps to pull it out. You have this here that may look like the loop you need to go in, but it's not, because if you'll see, this part's already there. So it's right here. Over, around. And you will do this all the way down. These first few rows are the most difficult. You probably can't watch a movie while doing these first few rows. When you get to the end, sometimes it's a little bit hard to see how many more you have. There are only 2 left. This is the knot. So I'm gonna wrap around, go through. And then this last one here, like this. Okay, and then very important, when you're finished with every single row on this project, you're going to chain 2 because it is your edge to your project. Otherwise, the project winds up going like this the whole way through. You'll wind up with a triangle, which is just fine if you want to make a shawl, but if you want to make an afghan, make sure you chain 2 since it is a double crochet. And then I just naturally wrap this on around before I turn this over. So it's already wrapped, and it can be kind of hard to see where you're supposed to start. Here are the 2 I've chained. 1, 2. And here is the first loop to go through. But for the 3rd row and for all of the rest of the rows for this project, you are actually going to go through 2 of them, the 2 that are on top. See this little braid that was made before? You're gonna go through here. You consider that as one loop, okay? So I just pulled that over once, pulled over these 2, pull over these 2, wrap around. My next spot is right here. And again, it looks like, see how there's those 2 there? Those count as 1. Okay. Then I'm going in this one here. And again, my yarn just lays over. I pull through those. And here and here. And you'll do this all the way down. I started with green for my son's afghan, and this is how far that I am so far, and I just started it, so it really does whip up quite quickly. All right, so I wrap around. Here's my next loop there. And then I'll go one more time real slow. Pull over 2, pull over 2. And there you have it. While you're making your project, you will want to count your rows because I want to make sure that my project is even. I'm going to have about 10 of green and then maybe 3 of the camo and then switch colors. So here's where the rows are. You can count by looking at these little holes, and you can see the double right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then I'm working on the 10th row right here. Next, I'm going to show you how to switch colors, because once I'm done with this 10th row, I'm going to switch to the camouflage yarn. I have my little bag that I keep everything in to keep everything handy, like this little pair of scissors. You're going to cut a pretty long tail like this because we're going to tuck that in at the end of the project. So here is what I have, and I'm going to take this here, the tail, and go in once and go in again. This will help keep it secure without making a true double knot. It'll make it tight enough that it's not going to come out even in the washing machine. I'm going to grab the next part of yarn, that I want to add to the project, and I'm going this way now. So take your hook and go through the first loop, which is right there, and we're going to put this through here like that, so that we're making another loop here, but it's not attached to anything, so it can still come out real easy. So again, I'm going to take this through here, and I have this. Now I'm going to leave this in here so it doesn't go anywhere, and I'm going to take the two ends, the two tails, and I'm going to tie another knot like I showed you before, where you go around once and then another time because it makes it more secure. And just tie that. Then you're going to chain 2, 1, 2. And this is where it might get a little tricky. You want to go right back in that chain again, in that loop. Now you have your edge. It's just like you've made the edge off of here, but this is still a loop that you need to go into. So I'm going to go around once. And then it's just as if this had been attached to this, and I've got my edge here and my new chain in that. So it looks like it's a double chain in that one, but it's not. Okay, and then you'll keep going down just like you did before. Just like this. At some point in your project, you're going to run out of yarn with this skein. So you're going to have to switch yarn midway through the project. So I'm going to show you what that would look like if I had just used a whole skein of yarn, but then now I need to add new yarn, but within the row. I'm going to stop right here where I have enough tail. I'm going to line these up, and I'm going to make that knot like this. Go through, just tie a little knot there. And I want there to be enough here like this, because I am going to tuck that in with a yarn needle at the end. If they're too small, like if it's only this big, that's not going to tuck into the project very well. So make sure that you leave enough yarn here. And then you kind of have to be a little careful when you're crocheting, because working around those little tails can be a little bit difficult, but that worked out pretty well. And then you just keep going. You'll notice at the end of the project, you'll have all of these little tails hanging out. You don't need to clip those like this and just leave them fringed. You have a really fancy way of tucking those in with a yarn needle. And it looks like this, and it's called a yarn needle because you can fit yarn into it. So I'm going to show you, if this were the end of the project, how I would tuck these in. So I'm just going to put both of them through at the same time. And then you'll go through and see, really the longer the better, because it's going to be harder to get these through this first hole. Don't worry about wasting the yarn. It's only a couple stitches that you're missing from that yarn, so that's okay. Don't worry about making your tails too long and wasting it. It's really okay, because it'll make your project neater the longer the tails are at the end. Okay, and then if there's anything left there, you can clip that off. But especially when the yarn is the same color, you won't see this at all. So we're gonna then go down to the end and do the same thing. So I'll take the green and I'll tuck this in here. When I made my first Afghan, I made a huge one for my sister for her wedding, and I did not know this little trick, and her Afghan had all these little fringes wherever I switched yarn, and I just didn't know there was a way to make this so neat. So see, you can't even tell that that's where that was. You'll just keep going until it becomes as long as you would like it to be. Let me know in the comments below if you do wind up making an Afghan and if you thought this video was helpful. I hope you guys all have a wonderful winter. Bye.